Well, hello, everybody. I hope you guys are doing well. Hey, I've got a slightly difficult conversation to hold with you today. Um, this is really getting at the heart of why I started this On Teaching program to begin with. Now, if you're new, here's what we're about. On Teaching, well, we believe that in order for education to improve, we have to begin with teachers. By helping teachers to be the best teachers they can possibly be, great positive changes can occur inside of education. And so, what we're doing, we're trying to instigate these changes by having discourse, sometimes civil disagreement with other teachers. We're sharing ideas and we're trying to reach out and get as many teachers involved as we possibly can. So, if something that we say here is meaningful or impactful to you, I want to hear from you. Let us know. Get involved with the conversation. Help us get the word out there. Share it with people specifically that you think might be interested in joining our cause. And help us get out there to random people by sharing on your social media, liking and commenting, all those kinds of things. And perhaps best of all, get involved with our Facebook group. In our Facebook group, lighthearted, sometimes serious, never negative, we are focusing on what can be done, what can we do in the classroom to improve our own practices. But we're not when we're doing about it in a meaningful, holistic way, and I hope you join us there. I'll leave links to all those things in the description. Okay, so let's get to today's topic. The other day, I woke up. This was maybe last week. I woke up in the morning and I was having a dream. I had this idea. I was thinking, well, what if leaders in education were to say, "Hey, I got it. I know what we should do. Let's try this for 2 years. Let's put all of our focus and energy on helping to develop teachers. Let's try to help teachers become the embodiment of the vision that got them interested in education in the first place." Lofty dream, right? Now, I've got to be careful with what I'm going to share here because it would be very easy to step on some people's toes. And I don't wish to offend anybody because there's no malice intended here. So, what I want to do, I want to acknowledge three things before we get into it. Okay, the first thing is that I am not singling out issues in my school. In fact, I'm very proud of where I work, and I'm very proud of what it is that we produce. Second, this is not an observation that looks down on something, but instead, this looks up to a potential outcome. This isn't about condemnation. This is about aspirations. Third, uh, this is not an attack on any teacher, administrator, counselor, publisher in any way, shape, or form. We are all human beings and we're doing the best with what we have. And the way we make things better tomorrow is by learning from the mistakes that we make today. So it's okay to make mistakes as long as you reflect and improve. That's what this is really all about. So, with those acknowledgments aside, I'd like to get 5 ideas out on the table. And I have sources for 4 of these 5. One is completely objective, it is 100% my opinion. I'll leave all those links where you can find them appropriately. You can find them all on our website as well, onteaching.org. Please check it out. Anyway, first change I would like to, or the first thing I would like to discuss is the idea that lasting change in education will occur when effective teacher recruitment, development, and retention programs are developed. Jennifer King Rice, she's a researcher at the Economic Policy Institute, and she wrote a book called Teacher Quality. In her book, she articulates that teacher quality is the most important school-related factor influencing student achievement. Starts with the teachers. You want a good school? Got to have good teachers. Number 2, programs that formalize let me start that over. Number 2, programs that formalize curriculum and testing protocol, grading devices, and standardized best practices in the classroom. They're largely ineffective because they don't really address the issue in education today. In fact, it's quite likely that, well, first of all, let me say this: those programs are most likely have most likely identified an area of improvement, an area of weakness, something that needs to be fixed. However, uh, these programs often contribute to bigger issues, and they make teachers often feel overwhelmed and overburdened and micromanaged. And that leads into what the bigger problem is, and that is, well, having enough quality teachers. Which brings us to number 3. It takes a significant amount of time to develop a high quality teacher. Uh, this is the one that's completely subjective. It's my opinion only. I've had this conversation with lots of other teachers. It seems reasonable that it takes on average around 5 years for a teacher to get to a point where they can really, really start to become highly effective. Now, that's not to say that brand new teachers aren't doing good things in the classroom. That's not what I'm saying. There's just so much to learn. It takes a long time. There's a lot of mistakes to make. There's a lot of development to occur. And those mistakes are going to be different for every single person. What works is going to be slightly different for every single person. There's so much trial and error and reflection that needs to occur. It takes a long time. And there's no way to compress that learning curve. So, number 4, about half of the teachers that are brand new fail to make it to the 5th year of teaching. And over half of the teachers currently working today have less than 10 years of experience. So these two things also combine to the severe teacher shortage that we're suffering today. And combined with the first 3 items, man, we've created a negative feedback loop. We need high quality teachers. It takes a long time to develop a teacher. One of the reasons teachers leave is because they feel overburdened with these programs that are designed to improve educational outcomes. And all together, we've got a feedback loop. We keep making more of these programs to try to fix more of these problems. And a lot of these problems are coming out because a lot of times there's not even a highly qualified teacher in the classroom. So of course you're going to have some less than desirable results. But the answer is to help those teachers. Brings us to our last point, number 5. There is an unfulfilled need in education to develop and support teachers so that they can better execute their roles. The professional development programs that are in place today, largely speaking, completely fail to do anything meaningful to or for teachers because they don't coach teachers on improving their practices. These programs, they often have the exact opposite outcome of their desired effect, and that is they drive teachers away and they hamper the quality of teaching. So, well, let's move on. So we got those 5 things, right? Those are what we're going to be dealing with. I could talk about number 5 at extent quite a while, but we're going to quit. Okay, so now look, let's put all these together, right? Here's what we've got on the table with these five facts. The most important contributor outside of students' personal life to quality outcomes in education is the teacher. The biggest problem in education is that there's a large lack of high quality teachers. Teachers at all levels of experience are leaving. And the number one reason that they leave is they are citing that they are overburdened and they are stressed out. That's the number one reason. It's not pay. They're leaving at an increasing rate every year for the past several years, and that was before COVID. There's some reports that suggested that over a quarter of the current teachers that in working in education right now are going to leave the field because of COVID. So pile that on top of everything else, we got a real problem. Do you see? So the efforts to attract, develop, and retain new teachers, they've failed because they really fail to address the needs of the teacher. Such programs and efforts, what they really end up doing is exacerbating the problem. They make the teachers feel even more stressed out, less empowered. It makes it harder to develop because they're so busy trying to balance everything else. They don't have enough time to think of new ideas and try them and reflect and see what's happened and develop their own style and skill. So In order to turn this trend around and improve education, we need a new direction. The response to issues in education should focus on recruiting quality potential teachers and then investing the resources to help them to develop and flourish in the classroom. Now, this is, of course, expensive and it's going to require a lot of time in two ways. Number one, developing new teachers is going to be very expensive and it's going to require a lot of time, but it's also going to be very expensive and require a lot of time to develop quality mentors. The solution to both of these issues probably won't be found in modern educational practices. Everything's going one way, and I think that I've articulated my understanding of why that one way is a negative feedback loop. That is creating a bigger problem every single time. It's just feeding the fire, right? We need to go a new way. Now, here's an idea to get the ball rolling, right? Schools, number one, schools need to invest great focus on the development of teacher programs. They need to develop teacher programs, and then they need to implement those. They need to execute those correctly. They need to observe how things are going and make adjustments as necessary. See, mentors. Most people aren't born a natural mentor. Mentors need to be vetted and then rigorously and continually trained. And the selection process for new teachers has to be stringent, but it also has to be a lucrative incentive to bring forth as many high quality candidates as possible. So we bring as many as we can in, and then we select the best of them, and then we develop other people that can really help those new teachers excel in the classroom. And we do that by focusing on the needs of those teachers. Now, in order for all of this to work, in order for this to work successfully, there has to be a change in ideology. You see, to develop the teacher, the mentor has to work with the teacher. They have to work with what the teacher needs, with what the teacher envisions themselves as the best possible teacher that they can be. There's no manual for this is how you teach. The book The First Days of School, I remember that was touted as, hey, this is it, right? This is the bee's knees. It's not. A reader of that book does not a good teacher make. It's got great ideas, and I'm not trying to cast dispersions about the book, but the way that the book is suggested, or what it is suggested that the book can do for a teacher, is completely inappropriate. That's not how things work. I believe that a comprehensive training program for teaching will never exist. It's not going to exist. Here's why. In order to write a training manual, the author has to know exactly what's going to be needed by the trainee, when they're going to need it, and how they're going to use it. Teaching, it's an altruistic endeavor that's really largely dependent on interpersonal relationships. And we people, we're irrational, emotional, we're complicated. We don't understand much about the way we interact. So we don't know what we're going to need. We don't know why we're going to need it. We don't know how we're going to use whatever it is we need to use. Therefore, a manual doesn't exist. What we need instead is highly skilled mentors that can help develop those teachers, just like we need highly skilled teachers that can help to develop those students. There's not a plug and play program that helps people to develop. Now, I would like to briefly discuss an article that I read in the Journal of Applied Behavioral Science. I took a class that used a lot of the information from this article. The article is called Coaching with Compassion, and then blah, 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 so on. It's a real long title, right? But anyway, in the article, the authors articulate two main points that are pertinent to our conversation today. They talk about why most mentor programs fail. The reason most mentor programs fail is that they are really coaching for compliance. They're starting with the needs and expectations of the institution instead of starting with the needs of the employee. A couple things happen here. Number one, strong connections aren't really there's not a situation put in place where strong connections, interpersonal connections, are likely just to develop. Number two, the in response to this, the new employee often underperforms, they fail to develop correctly, and they are often looking elsewhere. They are looking to leave. Whereas if you flip that around, if you can do what's called coaching with compassion, and that's where you first establish, the mentor establishes a resonant relationship with well, in our case, the teacher. Then that relationship is, number one, it's a strong interpersonal relationship, but it also opens the door to really deep, meaningful conversations where that mentor can really help the teacher with the teacher's needs and problems. They can really help that teacher to define and refine their goals for how they can see themselves as a teacher. That relationship can be used to help that teacher become the best teacher they can possibly be. And in doing so, all of the expectations of the institution are fulfilled because that teacher is developing, and they're going to be as good as they can be. They're going to be continually working towards that. They're not going to be working towards fulfilling an expectation that comes from, an administrator or a district office or a state mandate or anything like that. No, they're working towards becoming the best teacher that they can be. They are trying to become the embodiment of the vision that motivated them to get involved in education to begin with. And if you're a parent, would you rather have your student be in a classroom where the teacher's checking all the boxes, where they're fulfilling all the expectations of the district, and that's their focus? Or would you rather have your student be in a classroom where that teacher is passionate about teaching, where they're trying new things, where they're being innovative? Sometimes they're making mistakes, but they're reflecting upon those mistakes, they're learning and developing, and they're coming back better because of the experience. I know which I would prefer. Anyway, in sum, let's tie this up. In sum, the greatest positive impacts to education are going to come in response to teacher development and retention. When we create programs that attract the right teachers and help develop them and all the other teachers that currently exist, that's when things are going to turn around. Teachers make the greatest impact and achievement when compared to any other institutional element. If we left everything in education as it was right now, so all the terrible textbooks, all of the curriculum guides, the convoluted, I was going to say, there's the convoluted curriculum maps and all those things. If we left all of the testing utensils in place, the good and the bad, if everything was left alone with all their problems in place, and we just focused on helping teachers to become the best teachers they could be, we'd turn this around. All those other things hold problems that need addressing, but they're not the root of our problems. Let's build a solid foundation before we worry about the color of the drapes.